Hello, my friends. Wendell here. Hope the day finds you doing well. I have a question. I have a problem. And I was hoping that somebody could help me with this. So, we have the eclipse coming up, right? Everybody's all excited and end of the world's coming, blah, blah, whatever. I just have a simple question about what we observe here on our land here as we're watching the moon leading up to the eclipse. So we're in the waning phases of the moon, quarter moon and less as we're getting closer and closer to the eclipse. Now, if we're observing the moon, what do we see? Just go out tonight if you don't have clouds and just go see what the moon's doing, see where it is. Generally going to be to the west. Is usually going to be into the afternoon and then early evenings as it comes up and goes down. The smaller the crescent, the lower it is in the western sky. Correct. Is this what you see? I've been observing the moon and the sun for many, many, many years. Observing it intently. Not to say that means anything in particular, but we were observing to try to figure out a calendar, trying to figure out what is the actual calendar by the sun, moon, and stars. Because we were seeking to obey some of the Old Testament stuff and the Leviticus 23 festivals and trying to figure out the timing of all that and how to do it. Trying to figure out when the actual Sabbath day is. And this has been at least over a decade ago. So it was important to us, and we got out we had like a sundial table, and we'd get out there and mark things, mark the path of the sun by the shadow, and we got some very precise, determined, we were very determined about accuracy, and we would get these lines on the table, and we would figure out exactly the day of the equinox, and the solstice. You can really, if you're accurate, you can really learn a lot about what the motion of the celestial bodies are. And we were trying to figure out the calendar, and a lot of people work on that, whether you know people like that or not. But that's not really what's important here. What's important here is what is the moon actually doing, and what is the sun actually doing. So some of the things that I've seen is when you have a full moon, the true night of the full moon, how do you know when it's the full moon? Well, you have a conjunction of the moon and the sun working together. So just as the sun is going down, the moon is coming up. It's 180 degrees away from each other, and it's like a perfectly lighting the earth, basically, on the full moon. And in the summer, since the nights are shorter, you have the moon is up all night, but it has a shorter path. So it's going to be more to the south. The full moon will come up to the southwest, depending on your latitude. Kind of more, it is going to come up in the east. I'm getting everything mixed up, sorry. Comes up in the east as the sun's going down the west. And it's further back towards the southern horizon. And then in the winter, when you have the longest nights, the sun is and the moon are going to more be in the path of like summer solstice, when you have the longest day, and where at your position, wherever you are in latitude, when you observe that happening, it's always back further to the north. So it has a longer path. So the moon travels directly overhead, but back a little, and you see it all night, perfectly lighting the earth for that night, which is one of the design purposes, and that's an interesting thing to get into, but it's not important right now. So the point would be is that when the moon is actually up overhead, it's in those phases near the full moon. Because you can just observe it, it's just that's what you see. When it's the new moon, you can't even see it because it's so far off to the west and so low in the sky and it's not lit. You can't see the new moon. But if you were to try to observe the new moon, you're going to have to look to the west and have to get out there early in the evening or early in the morning, and hopefully you might be able to spot it. So my point would be is that as you're getting closer to the new moon, your trajectories, your little crescents, your little arcs of the moon, they fall and fall and fall every night, leading into the new moon, and then they start growing back, coming out. So the moon is always way over to the west, always low, doesn't make much of an appearance. During that time, let's just say the week surrounding the new moon, the dark moon, when you can't see it, it's never in the noontime position. It's never overhead. It's never anywhere close. It just doesn't magically pop over. It's way over to the west. Lower and lower and lower and lower. So now, the interesting thing here is you have an eclipse, the total over-the-head eclipse around lunchtime, solar noon. Again, some variance with latitude. But basically, solar noon, right overhead, that's where you see the eclipses, right? At least the kind we're having here. So what's blocking the sun? They say the moon, right? Well, the moon never shows up. It never shows up. It's always way over off to the west. Can't even see it. Usually, you can't even see it for like 3 nights. The new moon is like, no crescents are even visible surrounding these eclipses. So, there's a lot of ways that you could try to explain that. But my question is how does the moon come from way over there to way over here overhead and block the sun? We all see it. Is that really the moon blocking it? Does that really seem reasonable? If it's not the moon, then what is it? Everybody says, of course it's the moon. Well, maybe you're right. I'm just interested to know what you think. All right, anyway, this is Wiggle Out. Appreciate it.